Blessings of Light. I'm Reverend Harrison Roy Heskin, and you're about to see a lecture. When we begin the path, sometimes we do not know, for the path is windy, and we do not see the bends or the end. But as we travel the path, it becomes straight and narrow until we reach our goal. Sit back and intensify now your attention, concentration, observation into a meditative state, and open your contemplative and superconscious natures to absorb blessings.
Systems and patterns, the subconscious. Observation is systems and patterns, the subconscious mind, the yellow ray, and the navel chakra. That's what we're covering today. The meditation is, this day I'm relying on the infinite for guidance, direction, and insight. In the eye of intuition, I behold life and not the distortions of the conditioned mind. Today I am relying on the infinite for guidance, direction, and insight. With the eye of intuition, that's the eye in the heart, I behold life and not the distortions of the conditioned mind. So intuition, the eye of it looks through the crown and through the heart, through the center of the crown and through the heart. The eye of intuition, divine intuition being at the top, and individualized intuition of your own experiences at your heart. Divine intuition is God's experience, getting knowledge from God's experience. Your intuitional awareness is getting knowledge from your experiences. The first information comes out as that knowledge experience. So if you affirm this, be so at the end of this saying, this day I am relying on the infinite for guidance, direction, and insight. With the eye of intuition, I behold life and not the distortions of the conditioned mind. For this center is the navel chakra. We move through this chakra at age 14 to 21 for boys, 12 to 18 for girls. We will be talking about the ascending of the lower triad and the transcending of the thinking mind. The thinking mind deals with reason, logic, calculation. Here's where 2 make 4, and where we have our ABCs and our 1, 2, 3s are stored. These are systems that are stored here. It's what you put in deeper in cycle, by habit. You start using this area of consciousness consciously, and its predominant area starting from 12 to 14 years of age. And that's why you notice teenagers get willful, because it is the will center. It's the center of independence, and they're trying to get their independence, establish their goals, establish the confidence within themselves, those kind of things, and you went through that as a teenager. Did you ever see a teenager being willful, wanting to have their own way instead of being guided? Just try to suppress or push their will. I like little kids. I want them to grow up. If you suppress them at a young age and have emotional energies controlled instead of intellectual, that will be their future. So a lot of times, the parent pushes the child back into emotional strata, pushes them down instead of leads them on, help them establish their goals and those kind of things. Instead, he says, shut up and don't be so willful, and do what I say to do, and it goes against their independence, it goes against their freedom and the will center. At the navel chakra, the willful energies come into manifestation into the person's aura. At this center, it is like the camel. What Jesus talked about is right here, right now. It is easier for a camel to get through the eye of the needle than a rich man, because it is free from attachments. The camel was detached, free to move in consciousness. The rich man is not free. He's concentrating on his money, his possessions. What will get us through the eye of the needle? Remember earlier when we talked about the bucket of water in the wall? Well, that takes the bucket of water again and throws it on the rock. You will do that every day, and at the end of the year you will have muddy ground and a clean rock. But if you take and put a little hole in the bottom of the bucket and let it drift into the middle of the rock, at the end of the year you will have a hole in the rock. That is steady persistence, or persistent determination. Persistence is emotionally orientated, and it becomes stubborn if the persistence gets orientated in the navel center. You're not going to push me around, it might say. A tightening, a pushing sensation happens as the willful energies go through. As the willful energies are confronted, pressure builds up. The needle is like one-pointed attention, concentration, and observation. If you are not observing, how can you see where you're going? How can you see where the mind is leading you? You will go where your energy, attention, goes. Attention is energy. That is where you will manifest your consciousness. This area of reason and logic wants to know everything. Give it a train and it will take it apart to see how it works. Or it might take the train apart and then play with the box that it came in. This is the area of mind that has opinions, conclusions, comparisons, judgments, assumptions, analytic ability. This part of the mind is a heavy area. It took us millions of years to get here in our evolution. It wasn't until after the Atlantean time, when the Aryan race appeared, that we developed the intellectual part of the mind, the Navel Chakra. Then it was okay to think for ourselves. Did you know that in the early days there was a woman who drove through the streets in a chariot saying, "You can think for yourselves. You can think for yourselves." Do you know what they did to her? They threw a rope around her neck, drug her from the chariot, and stoned her to death. They killed her. They did it for saying, "You can think for yourselves." Only the emperor could think for you. Nowadays, we think about thinking. We open up your thinking by asking questions. A lot of people wonder why they don't see in their third eye. Every time you go to see, the mind says, "What is that? What is happening? What is thinking?" Or that is thinking, and not the third eye. What is down in the navel chakra, and not at the third eye. Give the uncontrolled mind a box, and it will tear it up to see what is inside of it. But when it can, then it can never put the box back together again. It is never again like the original. This is what the mind does to thoughts and consciousness. It is like a little child at Christmas time who takes all their toys apart. You are giving someone a beautiful feeling ray. How does it work? What is it? I think it was this. You start to describe then in your mind. The thinking mind has great power for you. It's a great servant, but it's a very poor master. The thinking mind is a great servant, but a very poor master. The emotional master is even worse. The physical master is worse than that. You must conquer these three masters and bring them back to servitude. They must bow down before your heart. Remember the physical master, the conqueror Genghis Khan, who decided, if they don't do the physical things the way we do, we kill them. That was the decision. How about the emotional masters, who drove the race to the love, sensation, and orgies? No wonder the civilization fell. The next one was the thinking mind. I think this, I think that. If only I had a brain like the Scarecrow and the Wizard of Oz. The mind gives you everything that is held in form. The mind gives you everything held in form, because the mind holds all things in form. The mind holds all things in form. In this area of consciousness, we have observation. Observation is the navel center and gives you the power of will. When you watch what you say, when you watch what you think, when you watch your calculating mind, who is the watcher? This area of mind wants to compare everything. My dad's bigger than your dad. It makes assumptions. Well, if I had this and this, we would have that. It makes all these plans that may not come out. Then it gets mad because it didn't get its way. It says, hey, this is the way. I figured it out. How come you're not going this way, my way? These are statements of the thinking mind. At the navel, the mind makes assumptions. Suppose this, suppose that. Judgments. I think this, I think that. Describes. It's this, it's that. This part of mind wants to judge everything to see whether it is good or bad. It gets all caught up in that and forgets it has a neutral universe. This part of the mind forgets the neutral universe. All it wants to do is see, is that good or is that bad? It's caught in the lowest duality. There is always the Blessed Trinity. Thank God for the Blessed Trinity. The positive, the negative, and the neutral universes. The male, the female, and the neutral energies. You know, when a man and woman come together to be married, they come before a neutral energy. The priest or minister, they stand as the neutral, and then the male and female stand, and that makes a trinity that takes them to oneness. The male and female can't do it because they're opposing forces, but what neutralizes them is the minister. And so you don't come before the minister with your positive and negative energies. You don't reach that neutral force that gives you the trinity that raises you to the oneness. It's interesting how we move into this area of consciousness. We command it by the witness state at the heart. That is the command of mind. From the witness state of the heart, you command your mind. Not from the thinking. Thinking it over is the process of mind. You must be the witness at the heart. The witness from your knowledge. The witness as the knower. When you become selective, using free will choice, making decisions, you do this from the heart, not from your will. From will, you have to work. From the heart, you have grace. From the will, you have to work. From the heart, you have grace. We control this area by decisions and goals from our heart. So you control the will center by decisions and goals that come from your heart. Ambition is also in this area of consciousness. People have ambitious natures. The spirit isn't ambitious. Comparison is death to the spirit. Comparison is death to the spirit. Because the spirit is incomparable. If you start comparing it, you start cutting it up. And that is an illusion, for the spirit is always whole and all. You have an incomparable spirit if you are with everyone as an individual. Your spirit has gone through energy, light, and consciousness that others have not, even though you may have similar experiences or similarities to them. This area of consciousness also is the mind of opinions. It can give you opinion after opinion after opinion. The intellectual part of this energy, the higher part of the chakra, uses reason and logic. It has a philosophy to follow. But what philosophy is it? As a spiritual being, we have a certain responsibility to our brothers and sisters in this plane of awareness. We have a responsibility to humanity. Only you know when this center is purified and when it when it is to take responsibility for its acts. Only you know when this center is purified and when it is to take responsibilities for its acts. Only you know that. This area is the mind of action in the physical dimension. Without it, you could not make the tree into a table. A person had to describe it, 4 legs and a top. The mind is always describing things. And sometimes it describes everything. Look at the tree. Look at the sky. Look at the clouds. Look where you're walking. Look how it's doing. How do I feel? It's describing everything all the time. Who, what, why, and where, and how. You are all things all the time. But the mind wants to walk around telling you these things that you are. It's the reflector and not the direct and open consciousness. A mind open and direct sees all. Will go on until you transcend to your intuitional awareness. This mind will go on and on until you transcend to the silence of the heart, to the temple of silence within your heart, to your intuitional awareness. Work for your transcendence. Will you have inner sight? Will you have hearing of the inner and outer realms? Not until you ascend to those centers of awareness, the higher centers at the throat and the brow. The mind always wants to get its way. Sometimes it will tell you something is a certain way, even though you really know it's another way. It can get very convincing. It has a couple of allies if it doesn't get its way. It has crying, and if crying doesn't work, then it'll beat you up with words inside. It has a whole fistful of words to beat you with. When the description is wrong, there is resistance for it to go into the soul. Instead of handling it, you tend to push it into your emotional body. I'm not going to think about that. I'm not going to feel that. Then I think I feel something. And the next thing you know, it's a physical disease. A physical disease that started in erroneous description in the thinking mind, through calculating, through judgment, comparing, assuming, opinion in that part of mind. It is not true. It does not have the truth. Being in this area of consciousness can be a heavy type of awareness towards your fellow man. This is the part of mind that criticizes. Competition and comparison are some of the worst things for the soul, because there is no comparison and no competition to your true individuality. You are fulfilling that special part of God's plan in the tapestry of life that no one else can fulfill. You're fulfilling a special part. There's nobody else can do that. No one can do it for you. You have nothing to prove. It is this mind that says, I have to prove it. You, as spirit, you have nothing to prove. It will keep on until it either out-talks you or convinces you, unless you transcend it. It will out-talk you or convince you. You get tired of listening to all the words. Or convinces you. So you say, okay, that's what I'm going to do. Okay, I don't want to hear that anymore. Okay, all right. You see. Decision and goal control that area. Making clear-cut decisions from your knowledge and experience, from direct knowledge. Not intellectual knowledge, but experiential knowledge. Not intellectual knowledge, but experiential knowledge. When you stop identifying with these thoughts of the lower mind, then you start working with the doctrine of no mind. Keep open to prayer and use the thinking mind when you need to. Then it becomes a beautiful part of your consciousness, a helpful, easeful, peaceful, so that you can be useful area of consciousness. Easeful, peaceful, so you can be useful. That's what Satchidananda told. When thinking mind gains control, it is ruthless. It can be the most ruthless part of your consciousness because it draws upon the physical and emotional energies to support it. The thinking defense mind will use every method to support its lower energies. The thinking defensive mind will use every method. The bad sound good. The thinking mind, the defensive mind, is always trying to defend its ego orientation. That is why it's so important to take care of your body and your emotions in a conscious way. If your emotions are clear, then when erroneous thoughts come, your emotions will not support them. They will not be activated by them. You will have a pure foundation, and not one built upon sand, but on the strong foundations of truth in your emotions. You don't have to put on something to try to impress people. You are you. Putting on can be the energy of the actor connecting with the creative energies, and that can be good and beautiful. But the majority of people have so many erroneous thought patterns, and these may dictate a certain way even if it's not the person's true experience. They will act out something to impress others. Did you ever know something was a certain way, but you kept on giving it in another description? You might say, I knew it was that way. How did you know? Did your intellectual mind give you something erroneous? Or when you got or did you get your heart broken? When energy does not come out of the heart, it breaks the heart. When the navel chakra takes over, it breaks the power of intuition. Then energy goes out of your heart and goes down and tries to figure it out in the intellectual mind. When you have a broken heart, that's a sign of a broken heart. Your knowledge keeps going back into the intellectual mind to run it over and over and over again, get other alternatives, pollute it, it dilutes it. He created me a pure heart, O my Lord. Renew the tranquil conscience within my soul, O my hope, the 22nd Psalm. But the majority of people have erroneous thought patterns, and these dictate a certain way, even if it's not the person's true experience. Did you ever know something was a certain way, but you kept getting the other description? Intellectual mind give you something erroneous, and then you got your heart broken? The energy will go out of the heart and down to the navel and try to figure things out. As long as you're trying to figure it out, you will never get it. You must be here and now to get it. Presence, and have that presence within your heart. That's called the diamond and the lotus of the heart. If I am sitting down with a book in front of me and my mind is somewhere else, I will get nothing out of that book. Your mind must be present. The lower mind will take you all over the place. It will describe things in the past, what may be so, it may be so, but it is not necessarily true. That old description will keep playing over and over and over again until you take conscious control and change it. Give it direction by decision and goals. So if you have thoughts that are running around in your mind, you need to give them a direct decision and a goal to go for, so they just don't keep going back and back, over and over and over and over. We had some people doing the fire meditation. Some of them were very willful. And when we started the meditation, they said their stomachs got upset and they got dizzy. I said, good. The so-called stomach upset was taking the energy away from the navel chakra and raising it to a higher energy when you're in a fire meditation. When you're concentrating on the raising of the Kundalini fire, and your stomach is getting nausea or upset, it's because the energy is being taken away from it. And it's trying to spin it in those whirlpools of thought and hold it intact. But if you raise it, those all collapse. All those spinning around, those erroneous thoughts, they begin to collapse because you have a pure heart. Your heart is on God, not on man and on the world, but on God and God's plan and God's will and desire for you. Not my body, but God's body. Not my emotions, but God's emotions. Not my will, but God's will. Not my knowledge, but God's knowledge. Not my ideas, but God's ideas. Not my beliefs, but God's beliefs. Not my truth, but God's truth. Not my seeing, but God's seeing. Not my individuality, but God's individuality. Not my universe, but God's universe. Not my work, but God's work. See, are you about God's work? You might be around your work. You might decide, this is my work. See? What's God's work? Nobody can tell you that. Only God. God will reveal it directly to you. He's Almighty God. He doesn't need an intermediary to tell you that. Start to move awareness. But we don't have words when we're moving into this higher consciousness. Where you are mostly is where your monopoly of consciousness is. And that will be your main point of view. Wherever you are mostly, wherever you're reacting to the world, wherever the world's impressing you, that's your main point of view, so you can find out where it's at, so you can raise it. See, you might be thinking all the time. You might be emoting more than you're thinking. You might be doing actions and busy physically. You may be at the point of knowing more, or the point of creating more, or the point of seeing more. Those then would be your point of view, the center of your response. That would be where you respond out from. That's called the center of response. Wherever you have the monopoly of consciousness. And all other centers are subservient to that center. When your center of response is your thinking mind, it even makes the spirit servant to it. It makes the knowledge servant to it. It wants God to work for it, instead of it working for God. It wants God to give it things instead of giving to God. It's a taker, the lower mind. The heart is a giver. To do the fire meditation, we start moving awareness, and we don't use words. We just look at a candle and the candle's flame to hold our attention steady and clear. We let the feeling energy go to be sensitive to the movement of higher energies as we gaze into the candle's flame. We feel energies going up in vibration as we move to the so-called higher energies. But those are the energies of yourself that is lifting you, your true self. As we initiate the action, then we let the action happen. Because God gave you free will, you must be the initiator, the actions in your life. But you do that from knowledge. You do that from knowledge. You initiate from knowledge, not from the will and thinking and analyzing and scheming and all of those things of the thinking mind, not from words, because your knowledge don't have words. They can be described in words, but your knowledge comes from idea and principle and belief and faith and truth and higher things, which can be described in many, many, many words. So as you're gazing at this candle, you feel the self being the lifting power to the body, to the emotions, to the mind, to the soul, lifting you upon these higher currents of the self. The lower mind initiates action through description, getting thoughts moving, and by getting the vibration of the emotional body going, it gets thoughts and energy moving. You can feel this fire or movement in your physical body. This fire is called the Kundalini in the yogic science. The Kundalini is the fire, the heat of the body. And this is the fire initiation you must go through. We are all baptized in fire. The fire of the Spirit within the Kundalini. The Holy Spirit within the Kundalini. That's what we're being baptized in now. It says, we baptized you in water, but you will be baptized in fire. And so some people think the world's going to catch on fire. Did you know when they did the atomic bomb, all the scientists thought they were going to set the whole atmosphere of the planet on fire? When they did the hydrogen bomb, they thought all the hydrogen would just disignite, would go. So they took a chance without the consciousness of the majority of humanity. Thank God they didn't put that on the mind of humanity. The Kundalini is a fire you must go through. There will come a point where you will become desirous. Everything you want will not happen, and the things that you have will go away. You will get a transition, a switch of polarity from the contrary faculty of mind. See, when you're in this lower mind, the things you want, the contrary part of it will push them away from you, and they'll keep pushing it away. And everything you desire will start being pushed away. Everything you have will start taken away because you have this contrary energy in that mind. It wants to do even the opposite to get its way, to hold its identity and personality. What is this polarity shift? It's the going from aggressive to passive action. There must be a time when the mind is open to receive new information. That's the passive action, instead of broadcasting all the time. When you read a book, does the lower mind keep butting in and giving you comparisons about some other book, some other teaching, some other way? That's the contrary part of the mind doing that. That's the skeptical mind. And skepticism is not a natural wave of the mind. Your skepticism is only overcome when you give it direct experience. You will try to compare what you are doing and what you are with someone else, and you'll say, this person is closer to the masters because this or that. Through the comparison, through this contrary, it tries to make others, you look bad so that you can look good if you make an accomplishment. See, it'll make you look bad so you'll look good if you make the accomplishment. There is a great fire you must go through, but it's the fire of purification of all your erroneous energies in the lower realm. You must transcend that fire. You must transcend the fire. You must go to air. You must go to the air. You must fly into the air. This is, and my soul is free. I fly into the air. Victory at last. Oh, victory at last. I fly into the air. You have given will the power to make action in your life. Here's what happens when you do that. Once upon a time, long ago, there was a beautiful and loving master who wanted so much for his people. He lived in a great castle, and many peasants lived around the land and worked it. He loved them and he did things for them. But he had a special work to do. So he also needed to be alone to put his consciousness into that work. So he went into the town and he hired a man named William to come and care for his castle. He said, Will, I would like you to take care of my castle and keep it in good shape. Take care of the food supply and keep it up. And keep harmonious vibrations going on in my castle. I will be up in the tower. Well, Will started cleaning the castle, sweeping the floor and keeping it clean. Days went by, and he had to run the place. He was operating the whole thing, and he said, Gee, I'm doing everything around here. The master says I'm in charge, so I'm going to act like it's my house. One day there was a knock on the door. It was a beautiful lady, and she said, I want to see the master. And he said, Well, I'm Will, and I'm in charge of this house. You will have to tell me your business first. She says, But I must see the master. And Will said, If you can't tell me what it is...
Oh, this pesky woman, I'll get rid of her. So he opened the door, and he beat her with a club and slammed the door. Well, the master was coming down, and he said, Will, what was that noise? Will was afraid he would be found out. So he took the club, and he hit the master. He dragged him up into the tower, and he locked the tower. That's like the will in your castle. You start giving it power, and the next thing you know, it owns the castle. If anything comes along, it says, I have to be satisfied first. It doesn't know its place. It's going to take authority. And if the soul or spirit wants to come into action, it grabs it or hits it with a club, with words, feelings, and negative actions. Many people's will is like the will in the castle, and their higher self is chained up in the tower. It can't come into action in the lower realms because the eye of the needle is closed. There is no ascension or transcending currents that can pass to this realm without will having its say. There are an infinite number of words in hundreds of languages that come through, and will wants to take command. That's what it thinks its job is. Its true job is to help initiate conscious experience in the physical universe for the soul and the spiritual essence of your being, the divine God presence within you. Its true job is to initiate conscious experience in the physical universe for the soul and spiritual essence of your being, the divine God presence within you. Its true job is to help initiate conscious experience in the physical universe for the soul and spirit, the essence of your being, the divine God presence within you. But curiosity wants it to find out all about these things. It wants to control them. Not until polarity is shifted to where will can be transcended will the master self have dominion. Not until polarity is shifted to where will can be transcended will the master self have dominion. Will is the false master. False pride will say, I did this. Look at this, Mommy. Look at this, Daddy. Look at this world, what I did. That's nice, dear, she says. Thanks. I never saw such an awful ashtray in my life, she says, after the kid has walked out of the room. But she'll encourage him along. You've been encouraged along by good intentions. But the pathway to hell is paved with good intentions. After you've had this kind of erroneous programming, then will starts. Gee, that was good. I'll do that same thing again. These kind of statements, are you going to let him get away with that? If it were me, I would do this, I would do that. Those are the voice of will. When you have lost individuality, where is your free will expression? It gets bound in description. It gets bound in false pride in saying, look at what I did. It gets bound by reflection of the past. When you have lost individuality, you are bound in the reflections of the past. How about your early days? Did you ever think, if only I could make him or her do what I want, or I will make them do that? And if that doesn't work, there is created a block in the subconscious mind. It blocks the instinctive energies. It blocks intuitive awareness. It takes your power away instead of giving it to you. Will takes your power away unless it's the servant. Or can you have phony power, thinking you are doing something you really are not? Well, I thought I did it. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was doing my best. I thought this. I thought that. I think. These are the words of the will center. I feel, I need. I feel, I want is the emotional chakra. I do this, I do that. I've done this, I've done that. The I, mine, me, that's the root chakra. The instinctive mind will stop a fall. Remember when you were a kid and you started to fall and you rolled over, you broke the fall, you learned to do that instinctively? But maybe a parent said, if you keep running, you'll fall down and hurt yourself. You get the description of falling down and hurting yourself in your mind. Then you say, Mommy, I hurt myself. And with a smile on your face, and you got attention. You see, I told you. Yes, Mommy, you did. What kind of erroneous programming was that? Fall down, hurt yourself in the subconscious mind? Fear of running? Oh, don't do that, or this will happen. You've heard those things over and over. We go out and prove the programming by doing it. See, when you're programmed, you go out to prove the programming by doing it. You knew it would happen because your mind gave you the description. Are you listening to this part of your mind? Are you listening to reason, logic, calculation, assumptions, comparisons, judgments, opinions, analytic energies? These are some of the areas this power will work with in the physical body. Remember, we're talking about the psychological aspect of the traumatic experiences that happen to you. A lot of people lose their success of life when will is primary because they try to make things happen. If something doesn't happen, they get disgusted with life. They have a certain description of life. Every time they try to raise the physical up or to bring in the spirit, this block stops the spiritual from manifesting physically. So it stops the physical from being enjoyed by the being. You do things for you, through you. If something can't come through, it's you doing it. That is the illusion. You know you have the glory and the credit for manifestation. Here is a very powerful force of consciousness. It is not strange when we look at the human body, at the navel center, this supporting powerful center. Or is it weak? There isn't anything to protect. God is all positions. But if you hit someone, then you are vulnerable to being hit. A like attracts a like. If you think bad about someone, you're afraid others are thinking bad about you. That's that law of a like attracts a like. If you fear something in your mind, it's because you did that. You need to say, forgive me, and let that go. Forgive yourself as well. Many have been forgiven by God, but have not forgiven themselves. They hit themselves over and over the head with this kind of thinking. Well, sometimes you will grab a child and hit them on the bottom to try to bring them back to the root chakra. They think he is going to go to the physical by doing that, but he may go right to the will center. When your back is turned, the will work out. See, you may have pushed your will, been hitting it or something, but then when you relax, then that will try to work itself out. It'll try to work that thing out. Unless you make a decision or a goal to direct it, it'll try to come out. Tell children what to do. They tell them what not to do. They give them more negative programming than positive. The fact is, you get more no's than you get yes in this life. In this area of mind, you get a lot of don't do this and don't do that. So ultimately, you have failure programming. Every time you go to do something, the programming is saying no first instead of yes first. Then you say why. So the subconscious mind uses support of why. It gives you a feeling. Well, I know how, but your memory puts things back together. It remembers, putting the members back together. That's the way you remember. The thinking mind gives you descriptions of these members that you put back together. The lower mind gives it to you the way you remember or override it. You can override these memories that are erroneous through divine instinct, the instinct of your thousands of years of experience as a being. Instinctively, you have great power.
but intuitionally you have even greater power from the knowledge of those experiences. You even have a greater power known as divine intuition, the infinite intelligence of God that guides you. Some people are still working with their first level energy. They haven't expanded out to their God conscious energy. They're still working with the physical first level energy, not the mental or the spiritual. The mind can give a description. Something is going to get you. Here is a person walking along. A big animal came and ate him. Up to the soul of humanity it goes. To all the other souls he says, watch out, there's big animals on the earth that can eat you. Or watch that red stuff that comes out of the mountain, it can burn you up. It goes on and on in experiences. Watch out for this, watch out for that. So pretty soon the instinctive mind has been programmed to watch out for everything. At the root chakra, the old instinctive vibrations can take off, and the mind gives description. I knew a girl who kept imagining that some guy was going to rape her. One day she was washing her face, and she looked into a mirror, and there stood a guy with a knife in his hand. She screamed, and he ran away. They caught the kid running down the street. He said, I was lonely. My girlfriend had left me. I really wasn't going to do anything, and she scared me. I told her, don't think about those things anymore. And she never had the problem since. She is calm and relaxed now. There was the description that was going on of what would happen to her. So it had to work out. See, if you describe worries or concerns or fears, and you describe those things, unless you know them, they will work themselves out. The event will happen. Because that's part of creative power, description. See, description is to give creative power definition. Description is to give creative power definition. Not persons, places, and things definitions. They already have a definition. Creative power comes from the truth. So description is to describe the truth. To get to the higher chakra, it cannot describe that truth. If you give it a description, you give it creative power. You give it form and magnetic attraction. When you start feeling it, thinking it, you start it into action. When you start feeling and thinking it, you start it into action. The feelings start magnetizing it. I just felt that I was going to get that, or that was going to happen. You just felt it. I thought that would happen. Remember those statements? Those are outcroppings of your feeling and thinking nature. And it happened. You can have good things happen by thinking good things and feeling good things. Like every day I'm getting better and better. In every way I'm getting more control of my thinking mind. And it's coming under the powers of my superconscious mind. The mind doesn't know, so the thoughts may start in a pretense. You might have to pretend you're happy because you've had so much unhappiness and a lot of description to support that unhappiness. You have to overcome this, so you have to start or initiate by pretense. You have to start it or initiate it by pretense to overcome it, because you have that other programming that keeps saying this is real and that isn't. So go on, go out and be happy, and pretty soon you'll convince this part of your mind to give you that type of support. What eye are you looking through in this mind? Are you always looking through the suspicious part, the negative eye, the disruptive or the eye of destruction that disassembles things? Or are you looking through the eye of the Creator that puts all things together? You know there's destroyers that take it apart, and there's creators that put it together. And it's the witness that neutralizes that it is the neutral witness that sees these. Which one are you? What eye are you looking through? If someone comes to you and says, I'm going into this business, what are you going to say to him? Are you going to tell him everything that can go wrong with it? Or will you give him support and tell him what can be good in that business? Many people, when you tell them what you're going to do, will tell you everything that can go wrong instead of everything that can go right. These people that tell you what can go wrong are experts of failure. The mind can help you and be an ally, or it can be an enemy. It's up to you. You are the master of it. You must control it by seeing what it's doing and approving or disapproving. Approving and disapproving comes at the heart. Approval and disapproval comes at the heart. You must see the way you're thinking and what your predominant thoughts are that's keeping you back. Keep the positive thoughts going. They will give you power. If you have negative thoughts, say, what is the reverse of this? And look at the other side of it. It's like a coin floating in space. You can look at the head or you can look at the tail as you're standing in the neutral universe. But if you fall to the head, you can only see the head of it. If you fall to the tail, you can only see the tail of it. Remember, the power to change your thinking mind is deny and decree. The power to change your thinking mind is deny and decree. Deny the negative and decree the positive. Deny the negative access and decree access to the positive. Do what you know to do that is true in your heart, that brings love and wisdom to you. You must transcend reason and logic. These are tools to use, not your guide. Comparison is not your guide. Calculation is not your guide. Judgment is not your guide. They are supports to you when you give them clear description to support. You are a good person. You have been doing good things. Don't dwell on the negatives of the past. Look at your past successes and the good things you have done. Look how great you really are. I went to Hawaii to give a retreat, and when I arrived, I thought I'd come to these islands at a time in human history. You have to be an advanced soul, and you have to be an advanced soul to stay in these islands, or the islands will throw you out. You have to be an advanced soul to come into the vortexes of beauty and higher consciousness. If not, you'll be thrown out. If where you're at is not a paradise, you will feel rejection from it. So the islands were a paradise to me. If where you're at is not your paradise, you'll feel rejection from it. You'll feel like I'm being pushed away from it. It's going to be taken away from me. Those kind of things. I'm going to lose it. And then you try to work to keep it and make it your paradise. But you have to see it is your paradise. And paradise is wherever you are. It's a state of consciousness and not a place. It's a state of consciousness, not a place. Paradise is a state of consciousness, not a place. When I was back in Pennsylvania as a child, slopping the pigs, feeding the cows and the chickens, and walking around in the snow, I thought about a place like Hawaii, a place like that. When I found out there was a nice place like that, where I didn't have to wear heavy clothing and big boots, I wanted to go there. Thank you, God, for these thoughts of Hawaii. But guess what? I had this as a child, but it took me 36 years to get there. I got into something else because my mind gave me other descriptions. See, that's what happens. You have a goal for paradise, for peace, for love, but then your mind gives you other description. You end up getting into something else. And the next thing you know, time goes by, it falls into forgetfulness, and then finally you get it. Finally, after you wear out this other stuff and you find out that isn't your paradise, where you really want to be, then you finally go. But it took me 36 years to get there. Do you listen to these other descriptions? What are you going to be when you grow up? You told yourself what it was. Are you living that description? What happened to those beautiful descriptions of paradise in you? You're going to be what? Some people may have said, but some people look at TV and think, I can't do that. They go on 40 years in experience in 30 minutes on the television. They go so fast that when people try to do this, they burn themselves up. They get these dreams. The guy goes from rags to riches in a 30-minute program. So the person goes out and tries to do it that fast. But that 30 minutes covered years of experience. But they don't see that. Inside it's saying, that was done in 30 minutes. And they're always trying to look for the 30-minute success. That's why they never get it. They give up before they get to the end of their goal because they're programmed with 30-minute success, 3-year success. I'll get this done in 2 years. Whatever you want is now yours and unfolding. See, it's yours right away, and you unfold that in your life. You'll burn yourself up. You must flow with it. See, once you've made a decision, you must flow and give access to your mind and your emotions to those things that will give you your decision, will give you your goal. And you must eliminate the other. That's what concentration is. Elimination of the irrelevant. Concentration is the elimination of the irrelevant. You have anything you want if you know exactly what you want and are persistently determined to get it and are willing to pay the price. These are the 4 keys to success. Again, these 4 keys are, the first key is you can have anything you want. See, it's all possibility. Your life has all possibility. At any moment, doesn't matter what age you are. I remember Colonel Sanders with Kentucky Fried Chicken. Here he was 65 years old. They built a road 10 miles away from his restaurant and the highways to go right past it. Now all the traffic didn't go past it and he went bankrupt. He didn't have any money. So you know what he did? He went around the country and he gave people this recipe for Kentucky Fried Chicken. He gave it to them and said, with a handshake, he says, when you sell a chicken, send me a nickel. He says, for every chicken you sell, send me a nickel. And he shook their hand and he gave them the recipe and how to cook it. Well, he got to this man up in Salt Lake City. His name was Harmon. And so Pete Harmon, he gave this recipe and showed it to Pete Harmon. But he also was a Mormon. So he went on sabbatical with the Mormons and did some work for them over in New Zealand. And he had to take a tramp steamer to get back. And when he got back to San Francisco, he got on a bus and went to Salt Lake City. And the bus got off across the street from Harmon's restaurant. And Harmon had been selling this chicken in 4 restaurants in Salt Lake City. And he never had chicken on his menu before that. And on there it said, Kentucky Fried Chicken, finger licking good. So he went in, and Pete Harmon gave him all this money from the 2 years he'd been gone, gave him this money and said, let's go to Chicago and sell this recipe at the convention. He went to Chicago and sold it for $2.5 million and was retained for $300,000 a year for the rest of his life to promote the chicken. For 3 months out of the year, $100,000 a month to promote the chicken as finger licking good. He got $2.5 million, and he was set for the rest of his life. He said, God, because you did this for me, I will adopt a child for every year of my life. And so he had 80-some adopted children that he supported because he adopted a child for every year of his life. And he died when he was 80-some years old. That's what he did. And he tithed 10% of everything he got to the Mormon Church. Because he was a Mormon. He gave 10% of everything he got to the Mormon Church. The $2.5 million, all the royalties that came in, because he had the right to take the franchise away from anybody that wasn't doing it exactly the way he wanted it done. He kept the right over the product. He says, because it's my personality, it's my image that you're putting out in front of the people. Isn't that interesting? That's I was one of his PR people, so do that. So you can have anything you want. He wanted to have a good life. So he gave to God, see, and found his opportunities. He shared. He gave away things. You can have anything you want if you know exactly what you want. That's the second. You must be precise. What do you want out of life? What exactly do you want? See? What I want you to do this afternoon is I want you to get some pieces of paper, and I want you to write down exactly what you want from life. Exactly what you want from life. Take a couple of sheets of paper, whatever it takes this afternoon, when you're on your break after lunch, until we come to our class at 3 o'clock. That's the time period. And I want you to write down exactly what you want from life. You can have anything you want if you know exactly what you want and are persistently determined to get it. Now see, don't write down anything and you're not persistently determined that you're not going to give your life to get. Your physical power, your emotional power, your mental power, your psychological power, your creative power, your spiritual power to get. Don't write nothing down that isn't going to have your life in it. That's what persistent determination has to have, those qualities. You can't just think it. It can't be wishful thinking. It can't be just some emotional desire. It can't just be something you know you want. You have to be able to put every body into consciousness. That's where the last part of this comes in. And willing to pay the price. The price is physical, emotional, mental, psychological, creative, and spiritual effort. It's effort on every plane of your being for total success. It's total effort, total success. Partial effort, partial success. You can have anything if you want, if you know exactly what you want and are persistently determined and willing to pay the price. Personal love depends on intercourse and emotions. That is cardinal love. True love is ever giving and never asking anything in return. Giving for the joy of giving. Make sure there is this kind of love in your desire. You can't experience it in the past or the future. You can only experience love in the now. Because there is no time. There is no space. There is only here and now. You have the illusion of time because our planet is moving around a great ball of light, the sun. The earth is turning, and we have the illusion of motion. The truth is, everything is being. The truth is, everything is in the state of being. The universe is in action, and it is in the state of being. And you are in the universe moving in action. The lines of experience move through the universe, creating the illusion of action. The lines of experience move through the universe, creating the illusion of action. The line of experience will tell you, I'm doing something, when everything has always been. God created everything, and there has been nothing new. You have done nothing since. You're here for recreation, not for creation. You're in creation for recreation. It's an illusion of action within this, but it's still in the state of being that has always been, is, and always will be. God is always God. This mind of yours will tell you other things about the state of being. It might frighten you when you say that you are doing nothing. Everything is now. When you say you are not moving, your mind will tell you, I'm moving. There's action, isn't there? But that's the whole process. It moves to create action. And when you tell it what you are, that you're in the state of being that you are, it will tell you another thing until you transcend it. The mind will try to figure it out. It is bound by time and space and circumstance. You are not bound by time and space and circumstance. As long as you're trying to figure it out, your energy is running along the lower triangle. The triangle of attention, concentration, and observation of your personality. Oh, this is infinite. This physical universe is infinite. There is no edge to it. The emotional universe is infinite. It has no edge. Where is the edge? The mental universe is infinite. Show me the edge. Where is the edge? It's beyond count. It's beyond number. It is infinite, and infinite means beyond number. It's too great to count. Your mind cannot hold perception at this level. It's only a piece of the universal mind. The only place you can hold this universal being is in cosmic mind, in God's mind, in infinite intelligence, and you can use it when you get to the end of the universe. One night I said I was going to the edge of the universe. I jumped out of the body and started shooting across the sky. The stars began to look like streaks of light, and I was moving faster and faster. They became lines of light. I just kept on going and saying, I'm going to the edge of creation, the edge of the universe. And all of a sudden I stopped. Where was I? Back in the body. I tried for weeks to go to the edge of the universe. Then I found the edge is right here, right now, where Mother, Father, God is making love. I was on the edge. If I am right here, right now, I don't have any place to go, because everything is here now. The whole universe is right here, right now. Can you figure that out? No reason, no logic will make any sense to you trying to figure that out. When you say God is right here, and everything is right here, and there's nothing else but what is right here, right now, you start to understand the power of expanding consciousness. See, it's expanding consciousness. It's like your eye is focused on this little life you've got, and you don't realize your whole life because you have this narrow focus to your eye of self. But reason and logic will say it's something else. Science will say it's something else. It'll say that's out there and you are here. But you, the true self, are everywhere present. You have your eye focused on this life. You, the true self, are everywhere present, but you have your eye focused on this life. You can be where you are, and that's all you can be. That can be the smallest, or that can be the greatest. You can get out of your body and think you are somewhere else, but you are still here in the Alpha and the Omega. You are the Alpha and the Omega. Your body is here, and you are always with the presence. When you start transcending, you'll find I don't have a description for what I'm doing in those higher levels. Some will say, what is it like? How can you tell them what being is when they are not being? Being is here. You are being now. Do you want to move from the here and now? Then you must have a description to move in that illusion. You must make a pathway to move from where you're at to where you want to get. You must redirect this eye of the self to look in another direction. Who holds the divine immaculate conception for the paths? The masters of light? The light is wherever you think you are, that becomes light. Wherever you think you are, that becomes the light. That's where you are enlightened. You are where you move. The power of thought moves, but not the power of the thinking mind. The power of thought moves, not the thinking mind. Thinking comes from thoughts. You can know thought, but not see the mind of thought. You see it in the here. How do you bring things into manifestation from this universe? You seek them here, right where you're at. It's so simple. And the mountain came to Muhammad. Your faith will move the mountain. Towards earth is the mind of complication. And it gets more complex and more complex. That is where the complexities of consciousness are ground to the earth. You think you have a complexity in saying, I will go to a therapist and he'll give me the description so I can get out of it. Then you give this guy $40 an hour or more to give you another description so that you now can shed light in that direction. He tells you, well, it's this way because the book says so. Who wrote the book? Are you still into complexities? Or have you broke them? Just let them go. Detach to the opposite. Detachment is the opposite of attachment. Detachment is the opposite of attachment. It isn't always the emotions that keep you attached. It's also the descriptions that you keep emoting, the knowledge you keep emoting. There was a man who came to me and said, I love this woman, but I can't stand her. I couldn't function without her, but she's so rotten. I have to stay here because I have a job, but she's so terrible to me. That is complexity that he has created. It keeps on giving more and more complexity. I said, to test his reactions, leave her, let her go. Whatever her karma is, let her have it. Don't keep describing those things to yourself. You know what he says? But I love her so much. She was drinking when she came to me, and I helped her. Now she's not drinking. I got her to go to church. I don't want to let her go. The truth was that they had been divorced for years, but his mind was saying, I still think about her. And this afternoon I saw her. The next afternoon I saw her again. Did she come up and talk to you? No, she was on the other side of the street. He thinks he was still with her. I could see jealousy, complexity, attachment, and the mind of revenge in him. He said, I was with her every day for 5 years, and I did so much, but she did this to me, and she did that to me. I said, let it go. Don't keep telling yourself that. Let it go. He said, I don't know if I should or not. I can't figure it out. That's why I came to you. I said, let her go. Hold her in the perfect Christ light. See her in Christ consciousness. Uplift her in your mind. See the perfect mate then for you. Don't get hung up on trying to make the past your perfect mate. How did I know what to say? It came out of him, from his higher self to my higher self, was telling him, because he had a block in his heart that he couldn't get it directly. So you go to others because you got a block that you can't get the plan directly. So you try to get the answer from someone else. If they're a channel or a medium or a mystic or spiritualist, they'll talk from your higher self. Tell you what the higher self wants. At the next counseling, he says, I don't think about her anymore since I've held her in the Christ light. But I've got this feeling that keeps coming back. And it can be, I don't think about her, but I've got this feeling. Or, I don't have the feeling, but I think about it. You must cleanse the whole pattern. What is the whole pattern there? Physical pattern, the emotional pattern, the mental pattern, the psychological pattern. What was the creative pattern there? So you have to clear the whole pattern. What you might get part of it, but it'll keep coming back because this other part will keep initiating it. You see? Because that little demon gets out there and he waits. Says, are you going to change your mind? Going to change your mind? Going to come in? Can I come back? Can I come back in? Come on now. You going to change your mind? Okay, here we go. Starts eating again. We'll do it every time unless you get the whole pattern out. Unless you count the whole cancerous thought, feeling. See, a cancerous thought, it starts taking away other thoughts. You say, oh, you're beautiful. And it says, no, you're not. Oh, but you're wonderful. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm terrible. And that's a cancerous thought. And then it becomes a cancerous feeling. To say, oh, you're beautiful, but I don't feel beautiful. Start eating every good thing around it. And then the next thing, it goes as a negative cell. And it starts pulling the energy from all the cells around it. You see? That's what a cancerous thought is. And if you don't clear them from the mind, within 5 years, they come into the body. Within 5 years, they come in the body. That's how long it takes to get it from the mind to the body. If somebody has cancer, say, when did you get it? And then look back 5 years and you'll find out what they thought that gave them the cancer. The pattern has to be cleared all the way to the physical. Because if it's not, it will sooner or later come out into physical action. I have a friend, and all of a sudden, I didn't have a friend. Do you go talk to him about it? Oh, I couldn't talk to him. I've heard this time and time again. The lack of communication between the bodies is the problem for disease. Lack of communication. So if the person is not talking to their friend, or not talking to their wife, or not talking to their husband, or not talking to their kids, or not talking to their boss, or not talking to the world, then they have a lack of communication in them. You have to find out what level is being blocked that they can't communicate. The self can't communicate with other selves. So the pattern has to be cleared all the way to the physical and all the way to the spirit. They come to a healing retreat. I saw that this person was trying to get their way, so I told him. This man and woman came to this healing retreat, and I saw that he was still trying to get his way. Well, what happened was, there was this woman, and I was on the radio, and she called me over, and she says, they said I have to have my spleen removed tomorrow. And I says, and that deals with emotions, right? And so I asked her a question, but every time I asked her a question, her husband answered me. So I said to Shushan, this a woman was with me, I says, take him out in the hall and talk to him, and I'll talk to her. I said very politely. So she took him by the arm and took him right out. And so I began to talk to her, and I found out that her parents told her everything to do, and she didn't do anything that her parents didn't tell her to do. Then she got married, so she didn't do anything her husband didn't tell her to do. And then I found out she wasn't going to do anything that her doctor, because he was a man too, an authority, that he said it had to happen. I says, well, you know, what do you say? And she says, well, I don't think I have to have this. I don't want to have this. I says, well, God doesn't want you to have it then. I said, let's agree to you are making a decision you don't have this. And I'll stand with you. I'm a powerful man of God. You know that. You've heard me on the radio. And she says, that's why I called you here. I says, okay. I'm the powerful man to stand with you. But I'm not going to bind you up.